So the topic of clauses is given in ninth chapter. You can look at it, but it is very important to understand it with reference to phrases. ठीक है कि phrases के साथ इसका क्या ताल्लुक है? Now, what is the difference between phrases and clauses? A phrase is a jumble of words, a combination of words which do not have full meaning. However, clause is a bit tricky because there could be two types of clauses, but basically a clause has a verb and it also has a subject which is connected likewise. For example, cake is yummy, this bottle is blue, my water is hot, Tom likes cashews because she ran away. So these are the examples of clauses. Independent clauses जो होते हैं उन्हें sentences भी कहते हैं. Right? Now this is the concept, Pep, that would make it more clear to you. Now phrase is something does not have a full sentence. It does not convey a complete thought. It can have either subject or verb or maybe not both. There are different types of phrases: prepositional phrases, adjectival, adverbial, noun phrases, verb phrases. Now we are more concerned with clauses. Clause is a verb, it has complete thought, it is a sentence, it has a subject. There are two types of major clauses that are independent and dependent. And dependent clause is also called subordinate clause. Right? Again, this is a chart that describes the difference between a phrase and a clause. Phrases do not contain a subject and a predicate. Clauses contain a subject and a predicate. Phrases cannot convey a complete thought. Clauses can convey sometimes complete thought. Sometimes, in a sense, because if there is a dependent clause, then it cannot have a full meaning. Independent clauses can stand alone. However, phrases cannot stand alone. Now, dependent clauses versus independent clauses. First and foremost, it must have both subject and a verb to be a clause. So a clause must have a subject and a verb. Dependent clauses are those clauses which are dependent on another clause in order to make the full sense. However, independent clauses are like complete sentences because they convey full meaning. Now, if we look at these examples, there can be several clauses in one sentence, right? Because she was late, she missed her test. Now, she missed her test is a independent clause. Because she was late is a dependent one because it is started with a subordinating conjunction. He eats pizza, he drinks soda. Both of them are independent clauses and they are co-joined by a coordinating conjunction. Then I hate to be late, but I must see this show. So independent clauses are co-joined like this. So now let's have a look on the examples given in your book, right? Let me take you to your book. 1 second. So we are concerned with main or independent clause, dependent or subordinating clauses. The things that are written in your book are what is a clause is and how to recognize a clause when you are seeing one. There are different elements of a clause, and these are subject, predicate, object, complement, and adjunct. A complete sentence expresses a complete thought. The elements, subject, and predicate are easily identifiable as there is an agreement between them. For example, subject is and predicate is these. Ali smokes. Ali is smoking. Ali is the subject and the rest of the sentence which has the verb is the predicate. Okay, this is the concept of subject predicate, which you already know. It has been given more examples. Now let's have a look on the types of clauses. We are going to talk about first two clauses that are dependent and independent clauses. So main or independent clauses are normally referred to as sentences, not clauses. Main or independent clauses can stand alone by themselves as a separate sentence Therefore, a main clause is a clause that is not introduced by a subordinating term. It does not modify anything and it can stand alone as a complete sentence. The ability to recognize a clause and to know when a clause is capable of acting as an independent unit is essential to correct writing and especially helpful in avoiding sentences, fragments, and run on sentences. Every main or independent clause will follow this pattern: subject, verb, complete thought. Now, these are some examples. Lazy students complain. Students is the subject and complain is the verb. Since complain is the verb, that is why that is predicate. Then Pepsi spilled over the glass and splashed onto the counter. So Pepsi is the subject and the rest of these words, spilled and splashed, are verbs. My dog loves spoons. Dog is the subject and loves is the verb. Then coming towards subordinate or dependent clauses, the clauses that cannot stand alone and is dependent or in need of a support are dependent clauses, right? The important point to remember is that every sentence must have at least one main clause expressing one complete thought. Otherwise, you have a fragment, which is a major error in writing. The subordinate clause is created by using a subordinating conjunction, a dependent word, or a connector. These connectors join independent clauses, thus creating nicely balanced sentences. Here is a list of some of the frequently used subordinating conjunctions: after, once, until, although, provided that, when, and etc. Now, let's have a look on these examples. Once Ali smashed the cup. Once is subordinating conjunction. Ali is the subject, smashed is the verb. Until Mr. Sumro has his first cup of coffee. Until is a subordinating conjunction and Mr. Sumro is the subject, has is the verb. Now, don't you think there is something wrong with the above examples? Yes, they are incomplete because they do not have an independent clause. So now we know for a fact that independent clauses are important for us to recognize the dependent ones. Remember this important point: a subordinate clause cannot stand alone as a sentence because it does not provide a complete thought. So a clause must be able to convey a complete thought. Once Ali smashed the cup, full stop. So what happened? Did he get scolding? Did he run off? It's a fragment. Until Mr. Sumro has his first cup of coffee. So we don't know what happened, why we are saying this. So whether he was irritable or he was sleepy or going to work, it is also a fragment. So you need to attach a subordinate clause to a main clause to express a full meaning. Subordinate clauses follow this pattern: subordinating conjunction plus subject plus verb is equal to incomplete thought. Here are some more examples that will make you understand the rule. For example, whenever, subordinate conjunction hai, lazy students yawn. So these are the sentences or examples which will make you understand that we should not start sentences with subordinating conjunctions such as whenever, as, because, after, etc.